Hi, I'm Scotty Almany.
And I'm Renee Rogers, and we both work here at the Birthplace of Country Music Museum. At the museum, we talk a lot about the ways that people listen to music. So from going to live and in-person performances, to putting a record on a phonograph, to listening on the radio. And because of that, the science of sound is actually pretty important to our content and to what we're teaching here at the museum. So let's talk just for a minute about the basics of sound. Sound is delivered through sound waves. So if someone makes a sound, either they say something or they play a musical instrument, or let's say a dog barks, you create vibrations with those sounds. And then those vibrations cause the molecules in the surrounding medium to also vibrate. As the vibrations travel through that medium and get to your ear, they travel down the ear canal to your eardrum, which then also vibrates. And that tells your brain that a sound is there, and it interprets that signal, and that's when you hear and know what that sound is. Because of that, so much of what was going on in the technology of the day was trying to find a way to record that sound and then to deliver it.
Like Renee said, a lot of the technology based around the early music industry was focused on capturing these vibrations and delivering the sounds to listeners. With the acoustic horn and then later the electric microphone and the machines produced to capture these sounds. Recording with the acoustic horn was tricky because of positioning, and with different instruments in a band, you had to have each musician close enough to pick up the sound of their instrument or their voice. But then later on with the electric microphone, it was able to capture a better, more balanced sound, and the musicians didn't have to be so crowded in and close to the microphone. In the 1920s, the Victor Talking Machine Company started advertising their music and players as orthophonic. Orthophonic, the term, means real or more authentic. So the orthophonic reproducer was developed, which took place of the older style reproducers, and it was a really big change and improved the sound quite a bit. The older style, inside of this grill, the older style recorders had a flatter, more solid resonator that was made of mica. So with the orthophonic reproducer, there is a small piece of aluminum that is then attached to a larger diaphragm of aluminum through 6 posts that allowed more movement, allowed it to move more freely, and in return to capture a more accurate sound. Through there, this attached to the tone arm, and the sound traveled down the tone arm and out through the horn.
We've given you a basic understanding of sound, and we've talked a little bit about the way the technology captured that sound and also then reproduced the sound with like the orthophonic reproducer that we were just looking at. But one of the things that was also really thought about by the companies that were making these records and making the players was finding a way to deliver that sound and to amplify it. So the idea of amplification is increasing the volume of sound. And they could do that in a variety of different ways. And we're going to just sort of demonstrate what different mediums do to sound and different shapes do to sound. So first, we're going to just listen to this song without anything. It's coming straight from the iPhone, so it's traveling through the air. So now we've hooked the iPhone into a sound driver. This is something that would actually be inside of a speaker to help deliver the sound. And Scotty, do you want to just explain what a sound driver is real quick?
So basically the sound driver is magnetic that translates the vibrations. So think about this as the middle part of a speaker. If you think about a speaker, the driver is behind the little kind of hump in the middle, and that's the source of the sound.
And when you have your hand on it, you can actually feel the vibrations from the music. So if Scotty turns on the music, I can feel it in my hand. But again, that's through air. And then we try it with different mediums. So this is just a small wooden plate. when you put it on the back of that, it doesn't really change the volume, but there is a very slight smoothing out of the sound, but the volume kind of stays the same. Then we have a pie plate, just a normal metal pie plate that you'd make a pie with. There's a pretty big change in sound there. Again, it sort of focuses the volume, and that's a combination of the medium that it's on, the metal, but also the shape of the pie plate. It's directing that sound out towards you. This is the one that we find really cool. This is just the top of a plastic tub, and I might need you to hold the other side. So. And if you hear that there, that's probably the best for volume, but it's also affected something else. And Scotty's going to explain that.
So like we talked about this driver being the center of the speaker, the different mediums that we used represent the cone of the speaker. So you may have noticed that the pitch changed, especially from the pie pan to the big lid. The lid is much bassier, and the reason for that is there's more surface area, so it gives the sound waves room to be further apart, and the waves travel slower, which makes the frequency lower, so you hear a lower tone. And the same thing with the pie plate, there's less surface area, so the waves are closer together and therefore travel faster, and you get a higher frequency. So basically this builds a speaker from a driver and then whatever surface you use to press it against.
And it just shows how the sound waves traveling through these different mediums sound different. Like Scotty said, they travel slower or faster, they're wider or shorter, and all of that affects the way you hear that sound and the sound that's delivered. And a lot of technology is about figuring out the best way to deliver that sound, taking all those things into account.
So although they are invisible, sound waves are very real and a big part of our everyday life. Can you imagine a world without music or any other sounds?